Ani, Bojo, Crystal Labataswe, Nadishnakas, Anda Kamnikaning Danjaba, Makwa Nindudem Anishnabekwe and Dao. Hello and welcome. My name is Crystal Labataswe, and I am from Anda Kamnikaning First Nations. I am from the Bear Clan, and I'm a proud Ojibwe woman. Many of us are joining today's meeting from lands across North America. North America is known as Turtle Island by many Indigenous communities. Land acknowledgements is one of the ways for us to recognize and honor the Indigenous communities and their traditional territories that we stand on today. It also helps increase awareness of the ongoing presence and contributions of Indigenous people, the original caretakers of this land. I'd like to encourage each of us to continue on our journey to learn about the history and ongoing stories of Indigenous people where we live and work. When I was asked to provide a recognition of the traditional lands where our meeting is being held today, I was so honored. It is a humbling experience to recognize my ancestral lands and give acknowledgement to my ancestors who came before us. I am delighted to bring part of my culture to each of you today. Today we gather to learn and celebrate women, our resiliency, our experiences, and most importantly, our shared journey. Let us acknowledge that the land we are meeting on, and for myself is Toronto, is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, my name is Crystal, and my official role, which I like to say is my 9-to-5 job, is working for TD Bank as a senior manager focused on Indigenous markets. And really what that is strategy when we think about our colleagues, customer, and community perspectives. Outside of my job, I'm also the president of IPAC, which is called the Indigenous Professional Association of Canada. I would encourage all of you here on the call today to learn more about IPAC, as we have just solidified a partnership with Lean in Canada. A little bit about IPAC before we begin our meeting today is it really supports Indigenous professionals from coast to coast to coast. It's founded on 3 pillars, which is professional development, network growth, and the recognition of excellence from coast to coast. I'm going to probably share some of the information after the meeting today, but again, I encourage all of us to learn a little bit more about IPAC and how we can be better allies. Today I have smudged for us as well. So in my bundle, I have tobacco and sage burning for us for today's meeting to send prayers to the Creator for the great dialogue we're about to have and the meeting, and to share our truths today, and to do this in a good way. So I'm just going to take a minute to let the sage burn a bit more. So thank you so much to Lean in Canada and for Karen for inviting me to such an important event. And I'll now pass it officially over to her to do opening remarks. Chimigwech, and have a great event.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I am so fortunate and blessed to have you as a friend and a colleague, and we look forward to Lean in Toronto and partnering with your IPAC organization that you lead in the very near future. Welcome, members, allies, and friends. Happy International Women's Day. Let's put our hand up. And I'm going to tell you what we're putting our hand up for if you haven't heard it on the news already today. We put our hand up to call out bias. We put our hand out to seek and celebrate women. And we put our hand up to collectively create a more inclusive world. From challenge comes change. And there are some things that we do need. Knowledge is power. The pre-COVID, the World Economic Forum said it would be 100 years before we would hit gender parity. Unfortunately, over the last year, we're set back with women 33 years in terms of participation in the workforce. And 1 in 4 women are right now looking to step out of the workforce. We need to make some change and stem this backwards activity that's going on. So choose the challenge. With great intent today, we're celebrating and featuring women who not only are unapologetically ambitious, but they step up for themselves and for other women, and they support their communities in a huge way, calling out bias and inspiring change. I want us all to have a great event, experience. So I'm going to ask you to hover over your view. And if you could please select the side-by-side view, that'll give the best experience. I also want to celebrate my team. The Lean in Toronto team has stepped up in a huge way to create this event and programming that's helping our community and our membership, which is growing daily. You'll see a lot of comments in the chats in terms of following and how you can get involved if you'd like. And I want to now introduce the co-lead for our sponsorship team, Nikki Kanani, who will introduce our very first keynote speaker. Have a great event.
Thank you, Karen, for that introduction. It's a pleasure to introduce Samra Zafar, an award-winning international speaker, consultant, educator, entrepreneur, and the best-selling author of The Good Wife, Escaping the Life I Never Chose. Samra escaped an abusive child marriage to pursue her education. Without money or support from her and her husband's family, Samra attended the University of Toronto while caring for her 2 daughters. Samra began sharing her story to raise awareness about gender-based violence. Her book is now a national bestseller, one of CBC's Books of the Year in 2019, and soon to be adapted into a premium TV series. Samra serves as one of the youngest alumni governors at the University of Toronto, and her speaking portfolio includes many TED Talks, as well as speeches to the immigrant refugees, Yale University, UNICEF, and many other leading corporations and nonprofits around the world. You can find out more about Samra by getting her book, The Good Wife, Escaping the Life I Never Chose, or going to her website, samrazafar.com. Samra's story has impacted millions and has been featured extensively in the global media, including Huffington Post, National Post, Globe and Mail, Global News, and CTV. Her story fits perfectly with this year's International Women's Day theme of Choose a Challenge, as she's put her hands up and fought for her education, freedom, and voice. Please join me in welcoming Samra to our virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Karen and Lean In and the entire team at Lean In Toronto for inviting me on this really, really special day that's personally very close to my heart. And not just the day, but the theme is personally close to my heart. And it's a theme that has been resonant throughout my life, not just in my adult life, but through my childhood as well. I grew up in a very patriarchal, very gender imbalanced family, culture, and community. And there were so many times when I was always surrounded by the narrative that somehow, because of my gender, because I'm a girl, my dreams are not valid, my goals are not valid, that I cannot achieve the things that I wanted to. And my job was to stay within my limits, color within the box, and not try to be too outspoken or too ambitious or too intelligent or too smart, because I was making others uncomfortable. And also, I should just, the dreams that were allowed to me were the dreams that are prescribed for girls, that, get married and become a mom and become a wife and become a daughter-in-law. But the dreams that I had were going to Harvard or Stanford and getting a doctorate and becoming a change maker and a leader in the world. But in my own little ways, I was always challenging those sort of narratives that were around me. So when I was not allowed to play cricket with the boys anymore, I started a girls' cricket team in my school. And then I had all these radical ideas of gender equality. And I was told that those ideas are kind of, too much. And I started a school newspaper in my school to start sharing those ideas of radical social change. So whatever I could do in my little ways, in my naive little ways, I would do it. But I didn't know, and little did I know that when I would be 16 years old, my mom would come into my room one day and very casually inform me that in a few months I'd be getting married to a man who lived in this faraway country called Canada. And within a few months, just after my 17th birthday, I found myself sitting in a big grand banquet hall decked up in red and gold beside this man who was 11 years older than me. He was an absolute stranger, and he was now my new husband. And then just shortly after that, I was sent to this big, beautiful, and very cold country called Canada, where I was expected to now fulfill the role of being a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, a good mother, and I became a teenage mom, and I was not allowed to go to school. I was not allowed to pursue my education or even go outside anywhere outside of the house. And I was told that it was for my own good, because women who go out are corrupt women. I'm being protected from the influence of cultural change, and I'm being protected from the corrupt Western culture, because the women who become too independent are bad women, and they're wrong, and they're shameful. So it was all told to me that it was all for my own good. In fact, my mother-in-law said that I should be grateful that I got to the real purpose of being a woman sooner rather than later, and I didn't have to go through all of that useless education stuff. So this was not just that I was things that I was hearing from the men in my life, but more so from the women in my life. And as I progressed and as the years passed, and I was living in very, very dark times, it often felt like always constantly walking on eggshells, constantly feeling afraid, wishing every day would be a dull day, an uneventful day, because that would be a good day. I hope I don't do something wrong today to make him angry. I hope I don't fall short of the duties that were prescribed to me. And that was my life. And oftentimes it felt like living in a box that was just had enough air that that I could just breathe and survive, but not enough to be able to breathe freely and thrive. And I didn't even know what was happening to me. I had no idea what my rights were in this country, because I came here as a child bride. I had no idea that there are options out there. There are resources out there. I was always trapped at home. And oftentimes I was told that if I left or if I said anything, I would be deported because he sponsored me and my children would be taken away from me. So I stayed, and I did whatever I could to be that good woman and a good wife and a good mother and a good daughter-in-law, but always fell short and always suffered the consequences. But there was even in those dark days, even in those days when there was no hope of ever being able to go to university, I would stand in front of a mirror with a piece of paper in my hand and practice the graduation speech that I would one day deliver. And that's how I kept up the hope alive. And I just kept pushing and finding ways to be able to finish my high school, because I hadn't even finished high school when I got married. So I found out about the Independent Learning Center, ordered my books from there, and courses. And every day I would do my chores and take care of my baby and serve my husband and his parents, and then go into my room at night. And that's where I would open up my books and I would do my math questions and economics graphs. And I would feel like that was the time I could just be Samra and not the gender role that I was being fit into. It took me 5 years to finish high school. Applied to university, and even though I got in, I couldn't go because there was no useless money to pay for my silly little hobbies. And then I knew I had to find ways to make money at home. So I started doing a babysitting service at home because I wasn't allowed to go out and get a job. And it took me another 3 or 4 years to save every penny that I could while all my money was taken away from me. But I would save $50, $100, whatever I could every month to build a little nest egg of $2,500 that I needed to pay for my first year tuition fee at the University of Toronto as a part-time student. And that's when I put my foot down. And I said, I'm going to school. And if you guys don't let me go to school, I'm not going to run the daycare anymore. And they were already used to the additional income coming in. So I kind of used that as leverage. And finally, after 10 years of university and 2 children and 10 years of oppression and fighting a lot of hard fought battles, I was sitting in my first ever lecture at the University of Toronto, and big goofy smile, tears streaming down my face, and just thinking, oh my God, I'm actually in school. This is actually happening. And then something magical started to happen. I was, for the first time in my life, being treated with kindness and respect and admiration for the very things that I was always ridiculed and insulted and humiliated about. My ambitions, my goals, my individuality, my intelligence. And I couldn't figure out what's going on. And one day I stumbled upon the Health and Counseling Center. There was a sign outside of it that kind of spoke to me. Do you feel trapped? Like you've lost your voice, like you can't go on, like you're intimidated, like you can't speak up. And I went in and made an appointment, and I started going to counseling, which is where I learned that what was happening to me was not my fault. It was not okay. It had a name, which is abuse. And I did deserve better. And there were options and resources and people that were available out there who would hold my hand and help me if I fell and help me move forward. I also learned that my daughters are growing up watching this and being exposed to this violence and abuse and normalizing it. And I did not want my girls to grow up thinking this was okay because of any reason, least of all your gender. So when I walked away from the marriage, and it wasn't like I just one day got up and went away. It took years, and it took a lot of back and forth and a lot of struggles and a lot of dealing with self-doubts. And oftentimes it felt like jumping off of a cliff and don't even have a parachute and hoping to God I land somewhere safe and instead of falling apart. So there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity. I was also really, really afraid of the cultural backlash, which I did face because no girl ever, no woman ever from my entire family for generations had ever walked away from her marriage. Girls were supposed to stay and make it work and be silent and be submissive. And that is something that I chose to do, and I chose to challenge. And when I left the marriage, I was for the first few years working multiple jobs to make ends meet, raising my daughters and going to school full time. And eventually when I graduated as one of the top students at University of Toronto, I had a choice that, okay, I can take my awards and scholarships and my fancy new job and ride off into the sunset, or I can choose to challenge the system that oppresses women, because I knew that my story was not just mine. It is the story, sadly, of millions and millions of women and girls around the world who continue to struggle and suffer in silence because people are just quiet, or there's no support, or there's no awareness, or they just don't feel they can do it. And I knew that I needed to raise my voice to make a difference. I hoped I would make a difference, but I couldn't sit with myself if I stayed quiet, because silence only helps the oppressor and never the oppressed. And there is no honor in silence. So I started sharing my story for the first time 8 years ago. And since then, I've been on this immense journey that I feel privileged every single day to be on and be able to touch lives around the world. And some of the messages that I've received, thousands of messages that keep me going every single day and remind me of why this work is important. And there are some really, really important lessons that I've learned alongside in my journey. And those lessons apply to us as women, whether we are entrepreneurs, whether we are trying to make ends meet and keep relationships intact in our personal lives, whether we're trying to break glass ceilings in our corporate careers, whether we're social change makers or whatever we're doing in our lives. These are all things that apply to us, and these are all lessons that are just inherent within us, and battles that we're fighting. So as we are challenging systems that are around us that oppress us, systems of gender-based violence, gender-based discrimination, sexual harassment, all of those things externally, we are also fighting a lot of internal battles. We're also challenging a lot of internal beliefs and fears and conditioning that we've been subjected to over generations that hold us back, that stand in our way, and oftentimes we end up standing in our own way. And here are some of the things that I have learned and I have been able to encounter in the journey that I'm on currently. Control, when we think of control, and I certainly, when I left my marriage, I was like, I want to now control everything, control every outcome, because I don't want to fall back into where I was, right? But control is an illusion. We often feel that we want to get all the answers. We want to be able to get all the outcomes. We want to have all our ducks in a row. Otherwise, we're not going to take a step. I mean, so many women, when you read a job description, I was actually doing a speech this morning, and they said, when you read a job description and you meet like 80% of the criteria, you will still not apply because you don't meet that extra 20%, right? Whereas with men, if they meet the 20%, they will apply. So how do we challenge our own inner imposter syndrome and the self-dialogue that we face of, I'm not good enough, I am not this enough, I am not that enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not experienced enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not risk-taking enough, I am not anything enough. Fill in the blank, anything enough, right? And we all face that. And some of the things that I do to encounter that, because trust me, I face it every day. Every time I turn my camera on, or before COVID, every time I stepped on a stage or put my name forward for a job application or anything that I did, I've always like, what do I have to say? Will people really see me? Do I really matter? Does my voice really matter? So in those moments, you gotta be your own biggest champion. I literally stand in front of a mirror and give myself pep talks every day. My kids think I'm absolutely nuts. They think I'm crazy, but I do that. And they'd be like, oh yeah, there goes mom talking to herself again. But I do that because you got to, like, it's probably from those days when I would stand in front of a mirror and practice my graduation speech. But I tell myself that you're awesome. You're amazing. You can do this. I believe in you. There are so many times when I actually talk to my book cover, because that is the 17-year-old me. That picture is from my wedding day. And I would tell her how much I love her, how proud I am of her, how grateful I am to her for fighting the fight and for making this life a reality, because this Samra wouldn't exist if that Samra hadn't fought. And that helps me love myself on an inherent core level. I'm very proud of the things that I've accomplished and continue to strive forward. But those things do not validate my worth. My worth is inherent. My voice is inherent. My views and my individuality is already there. The fact that you're in this world, you're already worthy of being in this world. And everything else that you do is for you first and foremost, because you believe in it, because that fire in your belly never ceases to burn, because that's the difference you want to make. That's the change you want to create. That's the cause that keeps you up at night and wakes you up every morning. That's who you are. So listen to that inner voice and let go of that control, of that need to control, because control is an illusion. We only see a minuscule fraction of the reality that exists around us. I don't know if my name is being mentioned somewhere right now. I don't know what's going to come my way tomorrow. I don't even know what's going to come my way. Like, I just literally an hour ago got a call from Bell Media to be on live national TV tonight. And I had no idea that's going to happen until like an hour ago. Right. So we have no clue what is going to come our way. So our power doesn't lie in being able to control the outcomes, because we never can. But our power lies in being true to ourselves and letting the opportunities and the people that align with us come into our lives. That's where our power lies. And trust me, if you're not getting what you need to be yourself from the people that are around you, you're not asking for the wrong things, you're asking the wrong people. So surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with your own personal cheerleading squad. Build those people around you who lift you up. And sometimes that will not come from your family. It did not come from my family. My family, in fact, abandoned me, ridiculed me. They told me I was doing everything wrong. But the support that I found in friends, and one of those friends is here, like Karen, or the support that I found in my girls, the support that I found in people that I connected with over the course of my life, those are my chosen family, and those are my personal cheerleading squads. And what I would say then is, for the imposter syndrome, the biggest thing we want to do to ourselves is change our self-dialogue and be kind to ourselves. What happens, if a friend comes to you and says, I made a mistake at work, I'm really feeling really anxious, we would say to her that, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't worry about it. We'll get through it. Maybe talk to your boss, or learn from it and move on, right? That's what we would say. How would we talk to ourselves? Oh my God, I made this horrible mistake. Everybody will hate me. I will get fired. My career will crash and burn. I will lose out on that big promotion that's lined up for me. That's what we do to ourselves. We become our own biggest critic and we pull ourselves down. In that moment, use this simple trick. It really works for me. Every time I hear that negative self-talk in my head, I always instantly picture my daughter in my place. Or picture a best friend if you have one. If you don't have a daughter, picture someone that you love. Picture a woman that you love. And ask yourself, is that the way I would talk to her if she was in this situation? And instantly your dialogue will change. And deliberately talk to yourself the way you would talk to a loved woman, someone that you love and you care for and you want to help them. And that's what we need. We need our love ourselves. For the first person, the person that deserves your love and empathy and kindness the most is you. So do what you love, follow your path, and surround yourself with the people who lift you up, who champion you, who love you unconditionally. And there is no such thing as failure. The only failure is not trying again and giving up. Because every time I tried to leave my marriage and I was sent back or I went back, every time I've put my name forward and not gotten something, every time something has happened that I didn't want, it was a big blessing in disguise. When I left my marriage and I couldn't leave, I discovered something that I needed to work through, whether it was the fact that I needed to get more of an education or more money on or some kind of money in under my belt, or just some kind of, support system going. So every time I discovered a roadblock, okay, this is another problem I need to solve. And it got me closer to finally being able to leave. I just recently made some big changes in my career and embarked on a whole new path. And that came from a place of realizing that, yeah, I'm not going to have all my answers and all my ducks in a row. I don't have a crystal ball where I can see what's going to happen if I take this step. But if there is even a 1% chance of succeeding, I'm going to take that chance because it feels right to me. So fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is knowing I'm afraid. I know this is scary, but this feels right in my soul. And that's why I'm going to do it. That's what courage is. That's what leaning into yourself is. So lean in. Before you lean into the outside environment and around you, you lean into yourself. Listen to that guiding voice in you, that intuition in you. And to workplaces, my message is that be deliberate in bringing people forward, bringing women forward. When I was elected to the governing council of U of T, I would never, ever have imagined applying and putting my name forward for that seat. I was invited to apply. U of T seeked me out and told me to apply. And the first time they said, we think you should apply for this, I was like, are you guys crazy? Like, it was all old white men before me, literally, on the alumni governors. And I was like, I'm not going to make a fool out of myself. I'm not going to do this. And they said, no, we want you to apply. Please just apply. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll fall flat on my face. But so I applied, and eventually I got elected. And the person who was the chair of the election body that elected the governors, and he came up to me at the reception and said, Samra, if you think you're here because of your color or your gender, throw that out the door, because we certainly wanted more of a diverse pool in our application pool, diversity in our application pool. But after that, you went through the same rigorous selection process and interview, and you were shining head and shoulders above everybody else. And that's why you're here. And he gave me a gift that day because he helped me unlock my voice. So even if you feel that you don't belong somewhere, even if you feel that, maybe I'm here because I'm a diversity hire or something, we hear that, right? We tell ourselves that. I felt that way when I went into U of T. Am I here because of my color and my gender? But you're there because your voice belongs there. Take up that space. Be loud about it. Make sure that even if you're the first in a space, you're not going to be the last. My biggest proud moment was when I entered the council chambers at University of Toronto, Mississauga, and I'm the chair now of the campus council. There is a wall with the pictures of all the former chairs who are all men, and all but one was white. And then there's me. And all of them are old, by the way. And then there's me. And I hope that after me, those pictures are going to look very, very different. And that's what we need to do. We need to be deliberate. And whether we are being deliberate for ourselves or being deliberate for others, mention women's names. The women that mention their names in a boardroom full of opportunity. We are trained and conditioned by society to think there's a limited pie for all of us, and we all have to fight for a bigger slice of the pie, right? But let's change that narrative. We're not fighting for the bigger slice of a small pie. Let's work together to grow the size of the damn pie so we all get more. And that's what we need. We need to champion each other, lift each other, support each other, empower each other, and just be inspired by each other instead of feeling threatened by each other, because our worth is inherent. What we're doing is important, and we deserve to own our narrative and take our space. So give back. give back and pay it forward, because while you're carving a path for yourself, you're always also carving a path for others to walk in with you and behind you. Leadership is not about job titles. It's not about hierarchies or fancy letters after your name or any of those things. Leadership is about sparking dialogue for change. Leadership is about leading by example. Leadership is about giving back and paying it forward. Leadership is about speaking up for the right thing, speaking up for progress, choosing to challenge the things that hold us back and hold others back, choosing to challenge, not to turn a blind eye to injustice, discrimination, or any of those things when you see it, choosing to speak up and choosing to do something about it deliberately, and making those safe spaces for others to be able to do the same. So my challenge to you today is that think of an affirmation that you will take away from today and say to yourself that I am enough. This is what I choose to challenge. This is what I'm going to embody in my life. This is how I'm going to love myself. This is how I'm going to do the thing that I've been wanting to do for so long. And I've been holding myself back because of fear, because I don't have all the answers. But today I'm going to take that step because I have the faith within myself, and I have the faith that it will work out, because it absolutely, absolutely will. You just have to give yourself the permission to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samra. That was very inspiring. More power to you. Next, I would like to introduce you all to our second speaker, Nkechi Nwafor-Robinson. Nkechi is an experienced information technology professional with over 20 years of experience in the industry. She has held a variety of progressively senior roles within various organizations. Currently, she is a technology executive at one of Canada's largest financial institutions. She is also an entrepreneur, author, professional bodybuilder, and an inspirational speaker whose You Matter speech went viral with over 5 million views and has been shared over 10,000 times worldwide. An advocate for helping others, she's a founder and CEO of Empowered in My Skin Inc., a grassroots organization that is focused on personal brand development, helping people maximize their true potential and become leaders in every aspect of their lives. You can check out the website. It's www.empoweredinmyskin.com. She also launched a podcast last February called Own Your Thrive, which is available on most podcast apps. So do check it out after this event. Over to you, Nkechi.
Awesome. So first things first, just need a thumbs up that everybody can hear me. Yeah, I'm learning after like 5 events that just need to make sure that tech is working really, really well. So this is absolutely awesome. Yes, thank you. And great day, everybody. Karen, I really just, I marvel at your excellence and your beauty. And since I've met you, I need you to know that you've elevated my life simply by your mere presence. And so I thank you. Thank you for inviting me into this space. I'm very excited to share energy with everyone for like the next 19 minutes. And so, I want to start by asking everybody to allow me into your heart space. And so, whether you want to close your eyes or whether you want to just take a deep breath, but I want you to listen to these words that I'm going to share from one of my favorite quotes that really guides me in my life. From heart to heart. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, I ask you, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. That goodness that is within us is not just for some of us, it is for everyone. And here's the thing. As you allow your own light to shine, we unconsciously give permission to others to do the same. I say that again. When you allow your own inner light to shine organically, without even trying, you automatically give permission to others to do the same. What I said about Karen is exactly that. She shines her light, and it gives me permission to do the same. And here's the biggest piece of this quote is, as we are liberated from our own fear, which for me is false evidence appearing real. We just heard it from Samra, right? There's things that we believe about ourselves that it's really like, where'd that lie come from? So as you liberate yourself from your own fear, the magic of that effort is that your mere presence automatically liberates others. If now, in this moment, as we are 35 minutes into this event, if you are feeling lit up, if you're feeling light, if you're feeling inspired, I see the chat. That is Samra, who has released her fear to allow you to feel more liberated. Now, wait, by the time I'm finished, your liberation is going to be illegal. Okay. So, on International Women's Day, I choose to challenge. And what that means to me is having faith over fear. Because here's the thing, the minute you step into that boldness of challenging, you have to know that 100% of people are not going to agree with you, with what you're challenging. And you wouldn't want that anyway. That'd be like a coffee chat. Okay. So you're never going to get 100 people saying, wow, that's a great challenge, Inc. You're going to get resistance and it's going to feel uncomfortable, but that's okay. What I lean on, don't let people that don't matter too much matter too much. If it feels right, I promise you it's right. Know that the space of your challenge is where you can make the greatest impact on the world. Walk with that confidence. The space of discomfort is a differentiator. If nobody's uncomfortable, raise your challenge. Go up from there. So that's the choice of the challenge, is that area, that space of discomfort, that place where you dare to challenge the world. And the quote that I read to you, if anyone's interested, is from a book, A Return to Love. And why I say that is that book was introduced to me back in 2014. And the whole premise around the book is really about love and fear. So Marianne Williamson writes about love and fear, how babies are born into love, we learn fear. And I got it at a point in my life where I was crushed, personally and professionally. And it was in my mind. You couldn't see it from the outside world. And I was crushed in a way that, somebody put this book in my hands. I read it. And through it, as I started to go through the pages, I realized, okay, I thought I was crushed. But what I recognize is that the book was allowing me an open pathway of a renewed thinking. And that's what I'm hoping I can do here today, is just renew sort of the thought process that you've had, those things that have locked you up, tied you up in here, that is robbing you of the purpose for your life. Shining in the setting sun like a pearl upon the ocean, come and feed. Can you all hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm hearing music, so I'm not quite sure if someone's like, well, we don't hear anything, so let's put on some music. But, that renewed thinking of who I was and the purpose of my life, it changed everything about the way I think and my belief system. And it led me to make the choice to reposition the way I was showing up for myself, to my work, and for others. And the reason I needed to reposition the way I was thinking, functioning, and feeling is because I was stuck between these lines of limited thinking, right? Like, I think we can all imagine that, limited people and limited ideas and limited philosophies. And there was something, and in that quote, It lit up that something within inside of me that was craving and desiring and wanting to creep out of me and say, Ink, let loose. Let it go. Get rid of the shame, the pain, the frustration, the resentment, the anger, the unforgiveness. Let it go. Reframe, repurpose that pain, return to love. And so at the time when it's funny because at the time when I had that, I was a senior manager at TD. And I remember the biggest lesson I learned from that book was rather than like expecting other people to be, sort of doing their job and making change and do this, I started to ask myself, well, what is my job? We all have very real responsibilities and we have real power. Some of us haven't recognized it yet, but we all have real power and the ability to affect true impact and change in this world. And that should be our fundamental goal. So yes, there are people in seats that can do it, that can sign big checks, that, can make change from a stroke of a pen. But I believe that it's incumbent on all of us that as we're waiting for them to figure things out, that's the wrong idea. We are doing ourselves a disservice when we're waiting for them, when we have us and when you have you. And so that's what clicked for me back in 2014. I was at the time employed by TD and I had just wrong expectations. Superficially, it looked like I was ready for the next level, but internally my intentions were misaligned. And you can't create meaningful change in this world with misaligned intentions. No, you can't. So I decided to relook at how I was showing up for myself, for my work, and for others. And where once I was employed by my company, I'm now deployed to my company and deployed by a higher power, deployed there by a higher power with a purpose to help make the lives of 90,000 employees and 26 million customers better. And that's when I came alive. And I believe that when you find your purpose and you deploy it, there is a life that lights up inside of you. When we embrace living and working for something that is far greater than the pain and the shame that we feel internally, and recognizing that all of that is there for us to use for our power, to push out purpose, to find our purpose of service. Service is finding that thing that just makes your heart boom, 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 beat a little bit faster. And now for me, I'm obedient to my promise to live my life in a way that I will not need a tombstone. I heard it once said that, tombstones are only intended to remind people that you were here. Live your life in a way that one day your signature becomes an autograph. How about that? And so I wake up every single day fired to go with two things more valuable than money. And this morning is absolutely no different. I got more time and I have a true sense of purpose. And it's been rolling through my day. I'm flowing through this moment. And we work in spaces where we work with people, humans, and every single day, they could be the recipient of your gifts, of your talents, of your natural skills and abilities, of that reason for why you are here. I was sharing earlier, I'm wearing this shirt today, Be Loud as Hell. Not for me, but I'm wearing this shirt for everyone that does not have or feel there's power in their voice. I am willing to bawl on TV, to cry in front of rooms, to share my truth, not for me, but for each and every one of you. I have you on gallery view, for each and every one of you, so that your life can be maximized. I am creating my own unique energy. Trust me. I make a better me than trying to be a better you. And this is a year where my secondary word is about having the audacity to be me. It's incumbent on me to die on empty. Trust me, because it will mean that I have done the work to make this world a better place. And that is what the challenge is. There's enough work for all of us to do. 7.5 billion people in the world. And if we think just International Women's Day, 50% of them are women. So there's enough for everyone here to say there's an assignment on my life and I'm not going to let it pass me. Let me tell you something, talking about assignment. All of us here, there's now about up to 300, right? We're all born in different areas, different streets, different hospitals, different countries, potentially, different parents, right? I definitely know nobody here is from my lineage, I'm just saying. But unless if you are, put your hand up, maybe, hey, I'd like to meet you afterwards, but I don't think so. But the point I'm trying to make is for whatever life experiences we've all gone through, think about it. This event, we are all together. We've all come from different places. So there's an assignment on our lives. The paths that we've already traversed brought us all, converged us all here to this moment. That's gotta mean something to you. Why are you here? What message did you need to hear? What more do you need to know to leave this event to put a stake in the game of your life? Think about that. We were all assigned to be here together today. And so I've grown to accept myself as a gift and not a victim to any limitations, trust me, that the world has imposed upon me. I'm past that, whether it's my gender or the color of my skin, doesn't really matter. I've gone from wondering why only me to being very thankful that I can use my life, this platform. We all are platforms, everyone here, just embrace that fact. You are a platform. In your home, you're a platform. If you're a mother, that's your platform. Whatever it is, everyone has a platform. And I use mine to break these perceived barriers because I too have a dream where my sisters, such as yourselves, can join me at the table, irrespective of your shade, irrespective of your age, irrespective of where you came from, simply because you fit the criteria, and mark this down because these can become your I am statements, of excellence, strength, resilience, discipline, determination, creativity, innovation, vision. I can go on. Just simply because you fit the criteria of excellence. Kiki, Belinda, Aura, Emily, I am doing the work for that dream to manifest. It's incumbent on all of us to do it. So I do choose to challenge, but not in a way that resists, because I believe that what resists persists. But I choose in a way where I'm using my unique talents, gifts, and abilities that are mine to be a light of hope and empowerment. Lit people light up people. Empowered people empower people. And I want to be that lead domino 100% of the time. And I'm obedient to that mission. My vision board over there states the best way to become a billionaire is to help 1 billion people. So I have a massive amount of work to do, right? 90,000 employees at TD, only 26 million customers, right? So I have some work to do. But here's the thing, so do you. And borrowing from the IWD theme, a challenged world is an alert world. And we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. I love what Samra was talking about. Every single morning when I get up, and I'm digressing here a bit, but it's important. Because 6 years ago, when I started on my intentional journey to be a better human, I would get up and I'd be thinking about my inbox and I'd be thinking about who they did this to me and she said that to me and this person's upset with me and I trying to work through something over there and blah, blah, blah. And then one day I was like, who's they? Who's them? I make a better me. So, it's not about they or them. It's about this. And so, just repetition every single day, working on my human to the point where now this morning, I remember, because I know I do not recall a morning where I've woken up with a negative thought. I wake up, by the time I get up, I put my feet on the floor. The devil says, damn, she's up. I'm like, that's right, I'm coming for you. And then I say my prayers. And then I get in front of the mirror and I'm washing my hands. And when I say, my body is rested and my mind is clear. My body is actually rested and my mind is clear. How many of us go to bed, sleep 8 hours, wake up tired because your mind is spinning around? But I dump my thoughts before I go to bed. I say my gratitude before I go to bed. And when I wake up, my mind is clear and my body's rested. And then you know what I do? I implant goodness into me. I am born to win. I'm designed for accomplishment. I am engineered for success. I'm endowed with the seeds of greatness. I create amazing experiences for myself and others. I give myself the language that the world needs to use.
Subtitles.
That the world needs to use to talk about me. That is what I hope all of you will take from this. Start to talk to yourself in a way that it becomes
look what happened to this happened in my meeting too.
Give people the language that they can use to talk about you. So ask yourself.
I hope you.
Does everyone hear that? Or is it just me trying to pretend I don't hear it? Okay, maybe we can mute everybody except for me. I'm almost done, promise. And so ask yourself, what are you the lead domino for, right? I'm the lead domino for love, lead domino for empowerment. What are you the lead domino for? Pain and destruction? Or are you the lead domino and a pathway for love? Because trust me, it's easier to look the part than to have the right heart. We need to all check our heart. Great good can come and be accomplished if our hearts are focused and properly directed. Remember, aligned intention. So have faith over fear. When you choose to challenge, choose with no regret. Use opposition for opportunity. Take more out of adversity than adversity is taken out of you. I hope you're writing all these down because these need to be those statements that you keep in front of you. And always, last statement for me to you is start with the end in mind and know with absolute certainty in every conversation, in every situation, every email, phone call, text message, conversation, what you, Chidima, Nyla, Joe, Noreen, Ashley, just you, all of you want your legacy to be. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkechi. That was, in a word, inspiring. We are very lucky today that Nkechi will be spending a little more time with us as part of a facilitated discussion. Joining her will be Rupinder Dhillon and Tori Konechny. Rupinder has worked in the data field for 2 decades in data management, business intelligence, advanced analytics, and most recently, AI and machine learning. She has worked across industries spanning financial services, software, and telecommunications. Currently, as the Chief Data Officer, Data Innovation and AI at HBC, she champions the use of data to drive innovation. Tori is the Vice President of our Lean In Toronto team. Her career spans the areas of management consulting, retail, and for the past 6 years, telecommunications. She is Director of Campaign Management and Data Science at TELUS, and creating a culture that supports and progresses and empowers women in the workplace is a top priority for her. Please join me in welcoming back Nkechi and Rupinder and Tori to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Sharda, for that warm introduction. And hello, everyone. I am so thrilled, honored, excited to be spending the evening of International Women's Day with Nkechi and Rupinder and all of you here, honestly. Can I tell you that these 2 women who we're going to have a panel discussion about challenging bias are both 2020 Top 100 Women in Canada award recipients. which deserves a huge round of applause. And the other thing that makes me really excited, and Sharda touched on this a little bit, but is all three of us are women representing the technology, IT, data science, machine learning space. So for that, I also get really, really excited. And I promise you, unless we get a lot of questions for it, we'll try to stay off the AI, data science, machine learning train for this segment, but maybe we do a follow-up session to Nkechi and Rupinder with some specifics there. Before we get into it, and as I said, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to be having a more focused discussion on how we challenge bias in the workplace, because the theme for this International Women's Day is choosing to challenge. But before we get into that, I sort of want to warm it up with some questions for Rupinder and Nkechi that are fun, rapid fire questions. So I'm going to start with Rupinder. Hi, Rupinder.
Hello, I'm very
Nice
happy
to
to be
see
here.
you.
I'm super excited. I should
So
warn
glad to have
you or let you know that it's COVID and my son is here popping in and out of the conversation.
I love it. Bring him
about
into
dinner and all of those things.
Conversation.
So if I go on mute and my face gets very stern, that's what's happening on the side.
Bring him into the conversation.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
He will be part of it in no time. So.
Rupinder, thank you for starting with that. I kid you not, my first question was going to be around what your scenario has been like working from home during COVID. What is your morning routine in this new environment, and how do you start your day?
There's no routine, and you have to be okay with no routine. I think we've just been in a space where you just got to kind of wing it and just be okay with it. I have to say that I really struggled at first, and there's been moments over the last year that I've struggled just trying to balance it all, mental health, just balancing it all and just showing up for work. I work in an environment, I'm very fortunate. I have an incredible leader who's the CIO of HBC, Steve Gold, but my peers are at a different stage of life. So they're, they're men, they have, either older kids who are well out of the home. So they're not living the same reality I am every day, where I'm doing a presentation 1 second to the CEO and the CIO, and then I have to switch and say, okay, go, I'll give you a snack. And then I have to quickly switch gears again. So I have to say the rule has been, there's no rules this year. What's been super important that I've shared with my team is, if I've had the conversation with my boss, who's the CIO, that, hey, this is a bad week for me. My kids are home. They're a mess. I'm not focused. If I'm willing to have that conversation, I want you all to be comfortable to be able to have that conversation as well. Because let's face it, nothing about today is normal. Nothing about the last year is normal, and we can't expect people to function that way. So, yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
I love that. The rule is there are no rules, and I very much agree. And I actually think it's interesting when we talk about challenging bias, the things that have shown up in 2020 and 2021 for many of these reasons. So we're going to touch on that a little bit more. Next question, Rupinder, favorite show during lockdown? What have you been watching?
I'm embarrassed to say, but Bridgerton. It has been my guilty pleasure. I send my family away. I've never been into like the romantic girly shows. Like I usually like the action shows, but that's been my guilty pleasure where, I have 2 boys. And so I'm very happy that there's a man cave in the basement, because a man cave in the basement means a whole house to me. So that's been my guilty pleasure when no one is looking and I can just totally veg out and watch Bridgerton.
Okay. Rupinder, you're getting a lot of support for that in the chat function. I think maybe more support. I don't think you're alone in that one. I also watched it. Okay, and then one more question for you, Rupinder. On International Women's Day, we celebrate women we admire. If you could have dinner with one woman, who would it be?
I answered this question actually earlier today. I have a fan crush on Samra right now. And so I would love to have dinner with her. I think her experience, unfortunately, it resonates with a lot of Indian women, and a lot of women who are coming from an East Indian culture, and there's a big still clash and a dichotomy between those two cultures coming together, right? And I've been very fortunate that hasn't been my experience, but I know it's the experience of a lot of people, and it's also an experience that is still so accepted in our culture. We still have so far to go. So I would love to have a conversation with her. I was asked that question earlier today, and that was my answer. And Nkechi, I feel like I just need you in my corner every single day. So, why am I here again? Okay, yes, that's right. And keep going.
Well, I'm reaching out to you, Rupinder.
I 100% agree with you, Rupinder, and I'm going to move on to Nkechi. But first, maybe a story or an introduction to how I met Nkechi. So through Karen, who's the president of our Lean in Toronto team, we often have guest speakers come into our volunteer chapter meetings. And so Karen arranged for Nkechi to come join us. Now, our chapter meetings are from 7 to 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. We can have long work days. We might be a little tired. And Nkechi came on and the energy was contagious. Like, you woke us up. You are such a favorite from our chapter, and your energy is contagious. So I could not agree more. And I'm so thankful that you're joining us for this back half as well. So Nkechi, I'm going to ask you the same question. If you could have dinner with a woman, who would it be and why?
Oh, it's going to be Michelle Obama. And why? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's on my board.
She doesn't need a why, but
yeah, she's on my board of directors. But I manifested. So I don't know if we'll cover some of that in some of the questions, but I think there's a place. I said earlier, what you resist persists, and so I've gone to a point in my life where it's full surrender. And so the year before last, she was, just very quickly, she was coming to Toronto in May, and that's my anniversary weekend. And I think there was an expectation I had that somebody was going to buy me a ticket because those tickets were quite pricey. I was competing at the time, so I didn't actually have extra cash. And I remember putting it out to the universe that, I want to go see Michelle Obama, but I want to go for free. And anyway, so long and short, May came and passed, and I didn't get to see her. And then
I didn't go for too long because I didn't bring a.
Yeah. And then in June, something showed up on my Facebook page that said, Michelle Obama's coming back in October. Would you like to go? And I put interested, right? And then it so happened that there was a women in technology event at TD, and I, was the host of the event. And as a gift to the planning and the team, one of the executives, it was announced that she was coming back to Elevate conference in September. And one of the executives shared 4 tickets. And so I got to essentially go and see her for free, right?
Amazing.
And then the joke is, leading up to September, I got a second ticket. So then I had 2 free tickets. So I gifted one to my girlfriend. And then 3 days before the September event, I get a call saying, how would you like to meet Michelle Obama? I'm like, 3 seconds, yes. And that was in October. And that happened to be the October event that I had put interested in June. Anyway, got to meet her. And so much so to the gift of presence. We were supposed to just be a 2-second meet and greet. And she looked at me, and I was with one of my great colleagues and friends, Colleen Ward. And she says, I need you to be part of my women's wellness initiative. So, get my card, reach out to my chief of staff. So we're just in communication. And so I'm like, one day, like, that dinner is coming once we can all get out of this. I'm like, when COVID entered, I'm like, So it's coming. I look forward to the testimony.
That is an amazing story, Nkechi, and I love you talk about manifesting these things for yourself, and you do, and it's so inspirational for us to keep hearing these stories from you. It's truly incredible. One final question for you, and then we'll get into our discussion. When COVID is behind us, what is going to be your first travel destination?
Jamaica. I need some. No, just I'm kidding. No, but I love it. I know my husband, Jamaica, it is Jamaica, 100%. And then somewhere else after that. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's get into it. So structure for this, I have questions. Some will be specifically for either Rupinder, Nkechi, or both of you. If it's possible, I am going to start with Rupinder. Rupinder, when the theme for International Women's Day 2021, Choose to Challenge, was announced, we talk about challenging gender stereotypes, challenging bias. Was there a moment that popped into your head of an experience where you felt that you experienced and needed to challenge that bias? And can you tell us about it?
Yes, yeah, lots. I have to also add that when I heard the theme this year, first of all, I thought, yes, right? Like it immediately resonated. And then in the next minute, and the next second, I was like, oh my God, but this year has been so tiring already. Like we still have to challenge, right? And that's still something that we got to focus on. When I was, and I've told a few people this story, but when I had just had my second child, I had already decided before I found out that I was pregnant that I wanted to go and do my MBA. The time was right. I was more interested in understanding what's my leadership style, what can I contribute, how do I really hone in on what's me? And so I decided to go back and do my executive MBA, found out I was pregnant, went through the pregnancy, had a baby, and my baby was 2 months old, and I was struggling. I struggled with anxiety, postpartum, all the things that come with postpartum. And I went and sought medical help. And I was told from a medical professional that why are you choosing to do your MBA right now? Isn't this time that you should be spending with your son? And isn't it time, you spent all of your mat leave with your first son, don't you think it's a little bit unfair for your second son? And I was gutted. As if I didn't feel guilty enough that I wasn't doing all the right things. I wasn't doing it the right way. Was I too ambitious? Did I spend too much time on my career? And I just remember going back to my car and for 10 minutes, just bawling my eyes out. And then I remembered my husband did his MBA when my first son was born. I'm pretty sure nobody told him, hey, don't you think it's kind of selfish for you to be going back and doing your MBA right now? And in that moment, I said, no, this is something I want to do for myself. This is a self, like I said, something that I'm doing for me. And because I'm doing it for me, it will help my family too. And yeah, I kind of brushed it off and I went forward and had the most amazing, 13-month experience doing my MBA and taking care of my son and not taking any time away from him. And so, yeah, that was a time where I think it was so blatantly obvious in my face. And, it's not always so blatantly obvious, but, I think those biases do exist and it's important for us to kind of break through them.
It's so interesting. At our Men Lean In event, which was last November, our guest speakers talked about the danger of assumptions. So others making assumptions on behalf of women, on behalf of us. And even if it's not ill-intended or malicious, it still happens and it has a big impact. And so you described that in a scenario where it happened from your doctor. Have you seen it happen in the workplace as well? And after going through that experience, how do you coach either women on your team or peers if they've come to you with a similar issue? I think, you know what?
We're having a moment.
I can tell what's happening. Your son's there.
Yeah, I think I think in my workplace, I've been in the data space for, like I said, 20 years. And what's been consistent through those 20 years is that you can use data to push the status quo. You can use data to drive innovation. You can use data to drive new ideas. And I found that I went through a phase where I wasn't necessarily getting heard. And when I was saying, here's what I think we should do, and here's something that we can do, and there are ideas that I thought were really going to change, where we were going as an organization, regardless of the organization I was in at the time.
And I think it was that the problem was that I think what I was trying to do was mimic the style of leaders that I saw around me, as opposed to understanding my own style. So, you know, I wasn't good at their super polished sales job, right? That wasn't me. I wasn't going to go into a room, slam my fist on a table and say, we should do this. And I'm going to be loud until someone hears me. But what I was good at was, one, understanding what was coming around the corner in this space, and two, building really good teams. So what I decided to do instead is, I'm going to have my voice heard through my teams, through them sharing ideas, showing ideas, and proving it. So it was really trying to understand, what is the style that will work for me, that feels good for me, that resonates for me, and I'm not trying to pretend to be something that I'm not.
Nkechi, you're nodding your head. Have you had a similar experience as it relates to style, maybe style in this industry also specifically?
Well, let's just be real. How many people do you see in technology that maybe are at the executive level that have a shaved head, red hair, and black? You know, it's, I've had to develop my own swag and style. And I think it's incumbent on me to show what is possible when you choose to recognize that you don't need to stand in, and that it's actually okay to stand out.
I'm thinking back to the quote that we heard from Samra, where she said, you may be the first, but you will not be the last. And you set that example and they see it, and then it creates a space. And I think that's so important, and for that reason, so inspirational.
Yeah, I just have to be honest, part of my nodding is just, I was already impressed with Rupinder. I'm immensely, I think I'm intoxicated and impressed right now how she's managing this whole situation flawlessly. Like, come on, blow up the chat. Like, you're a shero. And at some point we want to actually meet your mini ally. Like,
I know. Bring him in. I agree. I love this. And there's a lot of feedback around him as a mini ally, which is amazing. All right. Bring him in.
But I want him part of the conversation. He walked out.
Okay.
Okay, interrupt and let us know when he's back, and we'll bring him on. Also, I think this is so kind of indicative of how we're all operating in the COVID environment too, right? We've got kids and husbands and partners and everyone coming in the background. So I love this. And I think it's exactly how we are living work from home life in 2020 and 2021. So when we set up the event, there was an opportunity for our audience to ask questions, and I want to make sure that I get to some of the questions that were submitted. Actually, a lot came through, questions around style and how we can challenge bias in the workplace, but how do we do that without being seen as mean, hostile, aggressive? These were words that were used in that question. So we'll love both of your perspectives on that.
So I want to make sure I understand this. So meaning that the person wants to challenge, but how do we do it in a way that is not mean and hostile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't, sorry. So well, if anyone knows me, I speak truth, right? So if that's what comes up, then I don't think you're ready to challenge, right? That's what I would say. If you can look it up, what you resist persists. And I always tell people, like, check your heart. So I would say when you challenge, and you know, that's why I was saying in my speech, like I wasn't ready to really know what I can challenge, and challenge in a way that would be meaningful and actually lead to change. If I was not really, if I was in it, like if I was in it in a way where, you know, there was frustration and resentment and, you know, just like an energy that is not necessarily conducive to collaborate and have, you know, the real hard conversations that we need to have without, you know, those unsupporting energies. And so that would be the first thing I would say. If the challenge is coming up, I think, and you're feeling it's then met with anger and frustration, then I think what is incumbent on you is it's fine that it's come up, like allow it to come up, but you need to unpack it, because then you need to understand what is the intention. because that which is aligned intention will drive a meaningful conclusion and impact and resolution. So, I mean, that's the first thing for me. I think it's a red flag for me when I'm getting ready to challenge somebody and my back is up. It means it's ink. You know what? I think this moment needs some silence,
Yeah.
and then unpack it. And when you're ready, come back with the fact.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting line of questions too, because there seems to be this association that when we challenge bias, it is in a frustrated or an angry way, when in fact, it can actually not be that, right? Like when you do unpack it and you can come with a clear and a logical argument to it, there shouldn't be that association. And I think that might be what holds people back. It's an awkward conversation. And, that's something that we can hopefully move past. And with support in the conversations we've talked about today, I think that's really, really important too.
Yeah, I think I'll just add something. Like last year, I had a lot of come to Jesus moments. Like during the whole Black Lives Matter, there were moments where I just knew now's not the time to sit on a panel. Now's not the time to get into a room to discuss what do we do next, because my emotions were ununderstood. I did, if that's a word, I didn't understand them yet. And they were high, and I just felt that they would not sort of lend to meaningful discussion. And so it's okay. Doesn't mean that you don't challenge it eventually, but just the time will come. If you believe in what you have to challenge, then the opening will come in a time when you can have uber clarity and intention for what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, I love that. The only thing I would add to that is challenging is also about, creativity, right? And innovation and, doing new things in new ways, right? And unlocking things that, and new things in people and new ideas, right? I think that is also an association that we have to strongly make with the word.
I love that.
Great point. It's a great point. When we kicked off the session, there was a quote from Samra, and it said, "When someone tells you you can't, they're showing you their limits, not yours." Have you both had experiences though where some self-doubt did creep in? And when that happens, what do you do? What do you tell yourself? And what advice would you give women who have that doubt creeping in?
So,
do you ever feel doubt? I'm eager to know. How do you deal with it?
So today, massive amount of doubt, especially going into today. So today is probably one of the, and I feel emotional, sorry. Woo. Today is a day where I would say I feel verified. And what I mean by that is I didn't need anything more than what already lived inside of me to get through today. But if I think about the days that led up to today, because I spoke at TD this morning at a pretty big event, and I spoke at CanFit Pro, then I spoke at another event that Karen invited me to, then I spoke at, Morris Phillips Canada International, then I speaking here, and then I have another event tonight. And there was so much apprehension, so much concern that the words that, the messages that I have to deliver won't be enough. I won't be good enough. And as I sit here today, I think the emotion comes because I know how many women experience that on a daily basis. And if there's one thing that I say that I will stop at nothing, I mean that when I say that, my work is to sit at tables as scared as I am, as frightened as I am, and do the work so that one day it's just surely about that we fit the criteria of excellence and discipline and creativity and innovation. That's the only criteria that we need to meet. And so today was a day where I, coming into it, there was a lot of doubt. And somewhere in this day, I realized that I'm verified. That blue check mark that you see on Instagram, that showed up beside my name.
Unbelievably so, Nkechi. You're getting, and I'm reading the comments coming through. I feel like it is so powerful for women to hear you talk about self-doubt, because from the outside in, I would think when Rupinder said you have self-doubt, I'd say, Nkechi doesn't have self-doubt, come on. And thank you for your vulnerability. I think it's really good for you to be honest about that. It's so powerful. But my gosh, like I'm reading the comments, overperformed, validated, inspirational, motivational, you name it. Like, come on. Rupinder, do you have anything you wanted to add just on the topic of self-doubt and advice you would give women?
I think it's a very real thing for everybody. I know that I face it on, if not a daily basis, a weekly basis, just that voice that says, are you sure, right? What if this is a dumb idea? What if you're not saying it the right way? I think what motivates me through it is people are watching, right? And people are watching on your team on how you show up, right? And where you take risks and who you speak with and how you speak, not from a perspective of judging you, but from a perspective of, I want to be able to do that as well, right? And I think there's a big responsibility. And I'm no different of a person as I was when I was that programmer and writing that code and thinking about what does it take to get to that level. I'm still the same person. I still have the same thoughts. I still have the same doubt. I think what is different now is that I have experience that I can build on, and I know what it is that I'm passionate about and what I will lead with in those conversations. But yeah, I think it's a natural part. I'll tell you a funny story about imposter syndrome. I was doing this there's this group of women, an amazing program. If you can check it out, you should. It's called Teaching Women to Code, right? Women Learning to Code. And it's a program done by the International Development Relief Foundation here in Toronto, and it provides a boot camp learning experience for women from marginalized and underrepresented communities right here in Toronto. They put them through this boot camp, and they then get them a job, and they have an amazing success rate of landing jobs for women. And the women in this program are absolutely amazing. I was having a conversation with one cohort, and the topic of imposter syndrome came up. And I started talking about it, and all the women in the audience were like, yeah, imposter syndrome. And the gentleman who runs the program, his name is Elias Burney, the most amazing human being you've ever met in your life. He said to me, he's like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, what is it, right? And as a man, and I explained it to him, he's like, that doesn't make any sense. And as a man, I was like, you know what? Hearing his perspective, I'm like, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make it less real, right? Yeah. But it was so fascinating to me that is this a construct that impacts women more than men? And as leaders, how do we help kind of get rid of it and show people that yes, it might be how you feel, but it's not it's not reflective of who you are and what you can do.
What you can do, 100%. This is such a powerful conversation. I think, we're 4 minutes away, and I sadly have to wrap it up. And I do want to talk about Lean in Circles, but I think everybody's going to get invited back for a follow-up session or Instagram series or what have you, because there's so much more to unpack and talk about. But Nkechi and Rupinder, thank you so much for your time and for your vulnerability, your stories, your inspiration, your honesty in this panel. It was an absolute privilege to host it. And I do want to end on a note about Lean in Circles. So very quickly in the chats or with your reactions, how many of you have heard of, know, or participate in Lean in Circles? Really quickly. Leading one, awesome. Okay, so amazing. I do want to talk about circles because I think this event shows us that we are powerful when women support women. And when we get together, we are empowered, we are confident, we are strong, and we make impact. And really the whole premise behind Lean in Circles is a programmatic way to get women and our allies who we love together for discussions in a structured way. Lean In Circles is a pretty simple concept. It's groups of 8 to 12 women getting together on a regular basis. It's usually monthly. It's led by a facilitator, and that facilitator can cover topics all the way from gender equity to networking to career development. What role does Lean In play? We have support systems, and Aura and Shamina maybe give a wave. Oh, and Rupinder's got her ally here. Hi! Have to give a shout out. Aura and Shamina too. Oh, there we go. Hi! Learning about circles early. This is an early circles education. I love it. So Aura and Shamina, there you are. They lead our corporate and community circles on the Lean In Toronto team. What does Lean In provide? So if you decide that in your company or in your community, you want to start a circle, please reach out to us. Lean In has a set of resources, think of them as modules, so TED Talks, articles, facilitator guides that we give to you, and really it allows you to run these circles. So Sophia, I would love to end it off by showing a video for our latest marketing campaign that we're going to launch on corporate circles. If we could go to the video, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, Sophia. So I think it's very evident that we could have talked with this group for probably another 2 hours. There's so much more to speak about. Lean In Circles is an incredible way that we can all take action after sessions like these to continue these important conversations. We're going to flash up a slide that has our email. If you are interested in starting a circle, which I highly, highly, highly recommend, you can absolutely reach out. You can also message us on Instagram at Lean In Toronto account. And I want to also conclude, of course, by just giving a huge, sincere thank you to our incredible panelists, Samra and Nkechi, to Rupinder as well in the panel for making tonight so special for so many of us. I also want to extend an enormous thank you to our Lean In Toronto volunteer team. We are 30 women strong. These women show up and they volunteer on top of their work, on top of everything that's going on in their lives. And for an event like this, specifically our events team, co-led by Nyla and Sharda, along with Yasmin, Sophia, Risa, Elena, Jasmine, and Leah, and also our phenomenal marketing team, co-led by Belinda and Milana, with support from Emily, Victoria, and Swapna. You guys rock. Thank you for pulling all of this together. Thank you so much. On that note, I'm going to say Happy International Women's Day. May you have a fabulous evening, and I hope to see you at our next Lean In Toronto event. Thank you so much, everyone.
What doesn't kill you makes you strong.